So welcome to CaravanGo on December the 20th, 2023. Today we will be listening to our journey, then we'll first read the scale, listen to our journey, reflect, and then share a bit about what comes up in our reflections. So first up, as we sit around our campfire in the caravan, what would an extraordinary life be for you? What examples of extraordinary lives can you give? How would you recognize your extraordinary life? First of all, the gift of this scale today for me is I came into the call feeling stressed and headachy, which is just how my life is right in this moment. I was working with it in different ways, but this scale completely shifted my state. And I just feel so much better reflecting on this, like listening to the journey and reflecting on this. So I'm really grateful. And seeing people around the campfire talking about it really opened something for me around being present to different ways of responding to the question. And I noticed a real heart opening because the extraordinary life for me wasn't just about doing great things or being great. It was actually being what I wrote as perceiving deep. It was like perceiving deep in a moment what that call is, that hidden potential, unlocking it in any context. So a kind of presence that really is present to the incoming, present to what's happening in that moment. And then, yeah, just like a deep perception of that. And then taking the action. So that's what I've got.
Thanks for the new journey, Daniel and Carissa. I was able to go and really be present to the campfire and with the people around and that other presence, the mastermind presence. And I found myself relishing in the campfire conversation and the question. And what came up for me around the idea of what would an extraordinary life be for me? It's a life of, well, first of all, I was so thankful that I'm on the planet right now. That's extraordinary, really. And that I have so much in my life. And it's also a life filled with surprise and wonder. That's curiosity and inquiry and feeling in the flow and being filled with that awe and wonder. That was right from the beginning a theme. And that how would I recognize others living an extraordinary life? They too are living flow and wonder, and despite any adversities they might be experiencing. So then that led me to the third question, and they also live with gratitude, which is how I would recognize an extraordinary life as I'm living that life, a life of gratitude, and with, really savoring the joy of being on the planet. And the question, the empowering question that came for me, and that was, why does everything always work out for me? And that's when I would know I'm living my extraordinary life. And that even being in the center of the hurricane, there would be this sense of peace and wonder, and the qualities of mercy and grace also came ever present for me, recognizing, oh yeah, I'm living an extraordinary life. There's so much grace and mercy. So that's what came for me today.
I'm happy to share. I hope you can hear me. Mine was much less concrete than that. Very interesting journey that was very visual. And my initial takeaway from it is connection and community. It went from individuals around the campfire to colors around the campfire to all being blended to almost more and more subtle and subtle and subtler and subtler, subtler is such a word, but more and more subtle. With each breath, it went into me and came out more subtle and in and out more subtle. And so there's, I think that there's much that I get to unpack with that, and I'm excited about it. So much like Carissa, it took me in a direction that it feels very fulfilling and beautiful.
So I'll go next. When I dropped into the campfire, I just love the space because it is like takes me back to my origin. And when I'm in the presence of other people having similar experience, it's just really natural to engage in a conversation and embrace the possibilities. There's a reason why we're here in this moment together, and to share in that conversation what's possible. And the co-creating mastermind energy that comes out really naturally. And examples of that in extraordinary lives that I'm, and they're more generic than individuals, are like authors who can create stories, publish them, and engage readers, and change people with their stories, or the similarly with musicians or artists or people like that, I think are examples of extraordinary lives. And and then my extraordinary life, I think, in sort of that holding that all together, is that there's a thread of similar, like creating inclusive communities and being an example or a leader when called to do so at every turn of my life. That's what I got.
Okay, well, I guess I could throw my 2 cents in. So how would you recognize an extraordinary life? The most immediate answer for me is the crazy ones. All of the Apple ad, you can argue with them, you can applaud them, the one thing you can't do is ignore them because they change the world. So the crazy ones, the greater fools, as they talked about in Newsroom, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do. And so that's one level. But then I'm looking at the extraordinary. Extraordinary means extraordinary. So there's a level of transcending and including. So I have my everyday life, and there's some part of me that transcends the way, capital W, I engage with the ordinary life. So even the ordinary is extraordinary. So that those significant moments in anyone's life means that I think some of you have suggested being present and awake aware to the magic in the extra in the ordinary day-to-day life that makes this moment magical, or this moment what was that I think it was Field of Dreams, where he said we don't often recognize the most significant moments of our life. And so in an extraordinary life, in a place of being awake aware, I might recognize that thing that just happened. That's one of the most significant moments of my life, even though it seemed like there weren't a lot of fireworks going off, and yet somebody who's beloved to me connected in a way that might be one of the treasures of my life. So an extraordinary life might be, yes, you're one of the crazy ones who are crazy enough to think you can change the world, and then you do, like the visual and performing arts, and maybe some of the entrepreneurs of our day and all those things. But then there's the so-called ordinary day-to-day life in which really extraordinary moments happen, and can we be present to them? And that reminds me of a story, a true story. I think Napoleon Hill shared this, so it was a long time ago. But back in the day, I mean, I think in some states they still pump the gas for you, but in most states they don't. So it was one of those gas stations where you pulled up, You get out and somebody comes up and fills the tank for you. So in this story, there was a young boy who watched this man pull up and get out of his car and give the instruction to the guy to fill the gas tank, and went into the store, and he followed him into the store, and he just watched who this guy was. And it turns out this young boy, the man never said a word to this young boy. And this young boy did not interact with him in any direct way. And yet, as he grew up and became an adult, and he was going nowhere at the speed of light when that was happening. And so it turned his life around just the moment of being exposed to this person. So that was an extraordinary moment that resulted in this boy growing up to being an extraordinary person in the way that he changed the life of thousands of people in his community, did lots of philanthropic work, became very successful so that he could help people, and then did. In that moment, that man who came into the gas station and just who he was transformed that boy's life, and ultimately then indirectly changed the lives of thousands of people in that community just because of how he showed up. And so that might be then kind of a thing we wouldn't normally think about. Like maybe we're just shopping, and who we are in a moment because of who we are in that moment might change a life, might change lots of lives. So all these levels of that you are living your life mission, let's say, because of this part of this conversation, that you know about, that you're aware that this is mine to do, and you're about the business of living the thing that you know is yours to do, and you stayed in the inquiry long enough to be clear this is mine to do, and then you're about the business of doing that, is an extraordinary life. That you even asked the question is extraordinary. That you stayed with the question is extraordinary. That you're attempting to live it is extraordinary. So those are all the things that came. I mean, there were a few others, but that's kind of the main piece that came up to me, or up for me around this.
Feels extraordinary that we're all here together in this moment.
Yeah, thanks for the inquiry.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody.